87.
If you don't mind, after this interview, can I scan the files and give it to you directly?
Sure.
Right after the interview.
Okay.
And we will also try to take a picture of you.
Oh, okay.
Our final exhibition. So we give
Okay.
an interview. at the
Okay.
lobby. So,
Okay.
So, first of all, if I could give you so this is just a consent form for us to
Oh, okay.
use the audio. They're the same form, but one is for you to keep, and then we'll keep the other one.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And just let you sort of glance at that.
she will take a picture.
Sorry?
She will take a picture.
She will take a picture.
So do you need signatures somewhere? Or
Yes.
what?
Okay, so if you could just print your name right here.
Okay.
She will.
Okay.
And then on the next page at the top,
Oh, okay.
the sign and date. And this we will put on our one more. This is for the photographs and for like any scans that we make.
Oh, okay. So you need printed name and here?
Yes.
Okay. Did I put today's date in here then? One there. So then you want my printed name again? Oh. So you want my name, address, and all, it's all printed, and then you want a signature somewhere too, or what?
Looks like here. And this address is so we know
Okay.
what the pictures are. And it's kind of the same, so I can go ahead and fill out the date. Put on your pen.
And then
That one, so that you will have it.
I don't know how long you're gonna be working. Okay, that's fine. I was just saying, if you're gonna do.
it's 53216, not one
Oh,
one.
sorry.
Okay. You might wanna put it, this is gonna be like,
Oh, sorry.
you wanna leave up there somewhere? Yeah.
If, I mean, I guess you don't need to sign that if it's,
No, I'm.
These are my copies.
you can if you want.
Next time you do it. So, don't use that. Use that. You guys use it. Okay. Yeah.
Let's do this, we have a backup. Okay, so, today is, June 12th, 2018, and I'm Lena Lucy here at Finney Library on the corner of Sherman and
North.
North, thank you. And today I'm interviewing, can you say your name?
Thomas Littelmann.
Thomas Littelmann, about the Sherman Park neighborhood, and sort of the community and space of the neighborhood. I want to just go over, let me adjust this really fast. Can you just like, I don't know, say test or something. Say.
Test.
You can say it a couple more times.
Test. Test.
Okay.
Okay.
A couple more to say.
Pardon?
Can you say it a few more times? Sorry.
Test.
Okay.
Test.
I think it's good now. Is that good too? Okay, so I'm gonna just go over the written consent really fast, verbally, just so that we're clear. So there's no risks really involved in this interview, except that it is not anonymous, and this information will be published and archived. There's no benefits from the field school or the university to you, except sort of spreading the word about this community. And then also your rights. You can ask us to stop the interview at any time during the interview, or afterwards you can ask us to sort of like remove certain parts or all of it. And the number to call for that is in this sheet, or we
Okay.
can fill out, there's like a section in the back if you want anything removed. And we can fill that out afterwards or at any point if you would like to. I think that's all the introduction that we have. So,
Okay.
if you could maybe just sort of like introduce yourself or any sort of introductory information that you want to say about yourself.
Okay. Well, my name is Tom Littelmann. I purchased a home in the Sherman Park area in September of 1987, and have lived there since then. And I'm very interested in keeping the Sherman Park area as vital as possible.
Great. So, when you first moved here, what sort of made you decide to move to Sherman Park as opposed to some other area?
Well, I definitely wanted a diverse area, an integrated neighborhood. And I was going through a real estate agent, and I had a list of criteria, things that I wanted on a home. So, like a fenced-in yard, and so I was looked at several homes in the Sherman Park neighborhood. And one interesting thing was that the real estate agent was kind of upset that the Sherman Park Community Association's boundaries went all the way to 60th Street. And so I found that was kind of interesting, because that she thought there was a detriment to being able to sell the homes by saying that it was in the Sherman Park area. So, and this was back in 1987.
What would you say, what is the reason that she thought that that was a detriment to...
I can't say what her reasoning is. That would just be conjecture.
Sure. So did you only look at homes in Sherman Park? Like, did you know that you wanted to move to Sherman Park specifically, or?
Well, I knew I wanted to live on the north side, but I did
Sure.
look at some homes on the south side. And I knew, and I didn't want to go too far west, so, but I didn't specifically designate Sherman Park, in my search, but the area that I was looking to definitely wound up being in Sherman Park. So.
And then maybe like, what are your reasons that you did pick the house that you did in this neighborhood when you were choosing?
Well, I really liked the house, and I was able to talk to some of the neighbors. When I was looking at the house, they were actually neighbors out in their front yard on one of the days when I was looking at the house, and talked to them, and they liked the neighborhood, and I knew that and it just had like everything that I was looking for in a house. It was mostly the home itself versus the location, really. So.
I'm sorry. Were you going to say something else?
No.
Oh. Could you describe the house then?
Well, it's 1.5 stories, so there's like 1,300 square feet in the basement, 1,200 square feet on the first floor, 800 square feet on the second floor. The second floor was actually converted by the previous owners from an attic into 2 bedrooms with a shower stall, and and then the first floor has a full bath, and then the basement has a half bath. The basement has a furnace room, laundry room, storage area. The first floor has a living room, dining room, 2 bedrooms, and a kitchen. So it's definitely a very spacious home. And I knew that eventually I would have a dog, so I wanted a fenced-in yard. It had a fenced-in yard. And it's the house is on an alley, so there's no driveway maintenance. So that's,
could you sort of like maybe walk us through the space, like I don't know, from either from the street or from where you usually enter the house, if it's in the back, I don't know.
Well, it has a front door. So the front door has a foyer that's that's tiled, and then there's then you go from there into the living room, and then through the dining room, and like parallel to the dining room is one of the bedrooms, which is a room that I use as a TV room, and then there's the full bath, and then there's a second bedroom that I use as an office, and then there's the kitchen. So there's a hallway kind of in the in the center, which has entryways to the dining room, the two bedrooms, and the bathroom, and the stairs to the second level. And then on the second level, you go up the stairs, and there's a hallway. There's a bedroom in the back, a bedroom in the front, and then the shower stall and bathroom in the center.
So you said that this house sort of met like the things that you were looking for in a house.
Right.
And you mentioned, I think, that it was spacious. So I guess in the fenced-in yard, were there other sort of qualifications like that you were looking for that this house met well?
I know this is like 30 years ago, so you're asking me to remember. I just remember that it had all the things that I was looking for. So.
So going back a little bit, when you visited the house and you said you met the neighbors, could you maybe tell me a little about like your first impressions of like the area or the neighborhood, or like what that interaction was that you had with the neighbors?
It was very positive, that they liked living in the neighborhood. It's definitely a tree-lined street, it's nicely and shady. The people who had owned the home before I did were actually from England, and they were very big on gardens. So they had planted flowers so that there was something blooming all year round. Things that bloom in the spring, bloom in the summer, bloom in the fall. And they did a very nice job of landscaping it, and so and the neighborhood in itself, is definitely very pleasant looking, I think. So.
Could you maybe describe sort of your street just a little bit?
Well, the street is Brooklyn Place. It's only 3 blocks long. It runs from 55th Street to 58th Street. It runs parallel to Roosevelt Drive, so it's on that same angle. So it runs from the southeast to the northwest is kind of the angle that it goes on. And so there's Roosevelt on the same angle to the south, and Phillip is also on the same angle to the north. So it shares an alley with Phillip Place. So, and, that's kind of basically it.
Are there like changes over time? Like you've been living here for a while. Are there changes over time, like on your street, or?
Well, not particularly my street. Most of the neighbors in my street, like my neighbor immediately to the east of me, has been the same the whole time. The neighbor immediately to the west was the same up until last year when she moved to Arizona, and then there's a new owner there, and then the 2 blocks more to the, or 2 houses more to the west, that neighbor has been there the whole time. I'm very close to the neighbors who live across the street. There was a woman who actually came over from Germany in 1947 and lived there until 2 years ago, and she had died. She and her husband both came over in 47, and they had lived a little farther south in the neighborhood and then bought the home on Brooklyn right across the street from me. So she was there the whole time, most of the time, up until about 2 years ago. I guess the biggest change is the Phillip Place neighbors, the home directly behind me in the alley is a duplex, and that's change, it has a changeover quite often, and there've been people that just don't. Well, my biggest complaint is that they don't know how to recycle. They don't know how to use garbage carts. They don't take care of the yard and stuff. They don't know how to park their cars. They'll park in the alley and block my being able to get out. And this is several different tenants. It's not always the same tenant. There's a large turnover in both of the units in that particular duplex. That's my real only complaint about the neighborhood. So.
Would you say, do you have any sort of guesses, I don't know, or thoughts about the reason, the difference between like neighbors in duplexes versus like long-term residents? And
Well,
sort
I
of,
think there's a different advantage if the residents are owner occupied. The people will take care of their properties and they have a vested interest in it. Whereas, renters or tenants, they're transient. They really don't have a vested interest in, keeping up the property or being conscious of how their actions affect their neighbors or anything. So that's a big difference.
do you see that sort of like mixture of like owned houses and renters having like some sort of impact on the neighborhood, like you talked about your specific experiences of like parking and stuff? Do you think what sort of broader impact do you think that has on the neighborhood as a whole?
Well, I think that especially, in 2008 during the recession when there were a lot of foreclosures, that was the only time that we actually had vacant houses in the neighborhood, and those were all on Phillip, so there wasn't any problem on Brooklyn Place, the street that I live on. It was the problem just the street immediately north that we share the alley with, that there would be foreclosed homes that sat vacant for a while. And I don't know all the circumstances of why the homes were foreclosed or anything. So, but that was definitely, and that definitely seemed to give the impression that the neighborhood was deteriorating. So.
Do you,
In your block, is there any empty house?
Right now? No. No. This was back, 2008, when the recession hit really hard.
so how would you say, has there been like a shift after that, just sort of, I don't know, come back from the recession a little bit in terms of like those vacant houses?
Well, I don't know, I think I get the impression, I don't know for sure because I don't have the records or anything, that the homes were purchased by people who live in the western suburbs and then they rented them. And so there's a difference in, the way the homes have been kept up and the way just the general behavior of the residents, since then. So the homes are no longer vacant, but they're not owner occupied. They're they're renter occupied. So.
Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
Can I ask you? I'm a foreigner, so I can't catch every word what you say. I'm very sorry. Can I ask some question about when you was young? Where did you live
Where did I live?
Yes.
I was born and raised in Toledo, Ohio.
Uh-huh.
I came to Milwaukee to go to Marquette University in, originally in 1973, then also went to the University of Detroit for a little while and came back to Marquette in January of 1978, and then graduated from Marquette in 79. Lived in an apartment on 17th Street, which is real close to the Marquette campus, for 9 years, from 79 to 87, and that's when I bought the house in Sherman Park.
What do you memories previously the neighborhood? You before you settle down here, how to evaluated the neighborhood?
The neighborhood on 17th Street is what you're talking about?
No, I mean that before you settled down here.
What did you think of Sherman Park before you moved to Sherman Park? Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
What did I think of Sherman Park?
No,
No.
before you lived here.
Before I moved into it?
The place.
Chef, I think she have two questions. One is before you move here from the near the Marquette University, how do you think of this place? Do you have any expectation of this place or any knowledge of this place? And what's the discrepancy between before coming here and after coming here when you purchase your house? And the other question is, what is the big change of in your neighborhood when you came here in 1987 and now? What is the big change of your neighborhood? That is the questions.
Well, what I had heard about Sherman Park was it was very involved in the fair housing, and it was definitely an integrated neighborhood, and I've always thought of those as a positive thing. And I still think of, very positively on the fact that it's a very integrated neighborhood. So that hasn't changed. I guess my only change in thinking about my immediate neighborhood is the transition from, the owner occupied to renter or tenant occupied. And it's not on my particular street, but on the streets around me. So.
Do you know the neighbors around your house?
Yes.
You know all the names?
Yes.
Do you always talk about with them?
What do you talk about with them?
What do I talk about with them? Well, we have a very active neighborhood group. It's called the Norwood Neighborhood Group, which goes from 54th to 60th and Roosevelt to Keefe. And we've been very active, and the people who have dogs in the neighborhood, we all walk the dogs together, and so we just have conversations about, what's going on in our own lives and that sort of thing. So, it's just very friendly conversations.
This neighborhood group that you have, has it been there the whole time you've been living here, or did it sort of like form at some point while you were living?
It's had different leaders, but there always was, a neighborhood group ever since I purchased the home and up till now, and it's and we would, sometimes meet in people's homes. Most of the times we meet outdoors. We were meeting at the corner of Brooklyn and Norwood, and now we're meeting at the corner of Phillip and Norwood. And then during the winter times, we meet at the Sherman Perk, which is a coffee house on Roosevelt. So, we've always had, really good conversations. We've had, an annual block party in which, there's very good participation in that. And we do like the neighborhood cleanup, in which, several of the neighbors, we go all through the neighborhood picking up litter and that sort of thing. It's been a very good neighborhood group.
How did you become involved in the group?
How did I become involved? Just got an invitation, like they would send, just a little sheet of paper that we put on everybody's door, that there's a block club meeting, and I would just attend the meetings, so.
Where were those held? Were those at people's houses or?
Well, like I mentioned, that at the beginning, sometimes we would be in other people's homes, and then a lot of times it's outdoors. We meet at the corner of my street, and then in the winter months when it's harder to meet outdoors, we meet at the Sherman Park Coffee House.
Can you talk more about? I'm curious about the block party.
The block party, well, they always have it kind of on my section of the block because it's shaded. That's the reason that they give for it. But and it's usually like they have a band with a musical group, and then we have in the neighborhood block club like supplies a lot of the food, but then also at one time we were doing the participants on one side of the street would supply salads, and participants on the other side of the street would supply desserts. We'd have games for children, like big thing was like a water balloon toss. We'd set up a volleyball net. It was just, and the Milwaukee Fire Department would bring over the fire engine. The children always, really appreciated that, being able to get up into the fire engine and everything. So this is a good time to just sit and converse with neighbors.
Do the new people, the renters, do any of them get involved with? I don't know if they're like in your area with the group, but do any of them become involved in like your
In the
neighborhood
block?
group?
Not that I'm aware. I mean, I don't ask every person whether they own or they rent or whatever, but my impression is that most of the people who own homes in the neighborhood will come to the block club meetings and block parties. In fact, we have a block club meeting tonight. So that's, but I mean, that's my impression, is people that, have a vested interest in, in the neighborhood that are more inclined to attend. So.
Bring back a little bit, the block party, is that like in the street? You close up the street?
Yes,
or is it like-
yeah, we put barricades up on the two ends of the street, and then and that's where, like, on the volleyball net is stretched across the street, and the tables with the food and everything is in the street, and the band is actually in the street.
Could you, you bring your very interesting pictures. Could you describe or explain about these pictures to me?
To describe the pictures?
You took the pictures in 19...
No, actually, the real estate agent took this picture back in 1987 when I bought the house. This picture was probably taken by the builder when the house was built back in 1932. So, just, I guess that, some of the changes would be that, like, that the windows were replaced and that sort of thing. But, I've kept the leaded glass windows that are in the inside all through the house, but then the storms I've changed to so that I don't have to do as much maintenance. I have to actually paint them all the time, so that sort of thing. And then I did, and like there's stucco on this part here, and then the back of the house, this section of the house in the back is all stucco, so it has these slats. So I replaced that with vinyl, and I replaced the trim with vinyl, so that there's, so it kind of just reduces the maintenance on it.
Is there any place that you so far modified inside of space?
Inside that I've modified? No. The previous owners had converted the attic into the 2 bedrooms and the bath with a shower stall. And basically, I've just done kind of just maintenance work. You know, I've had, I did have there was a leak, so that I had to, you know, replace the shower stall, but very similar to what was already there, so not really any basic, any big changes at all.
When I see the current picture of your house, what is the biggest difference is front yard that plans compared to your next house?
Mhm.
It probably filters some, how to say?
Yeah. Since I was working and I wasn't able to do as much yard work and stuff, I did let the bushes grow pretty much, so that's why you see that the bushes are a lot taller, but you can see that basically the house is pretty much the same as what it had been before. Yeah. I don't know, what, you noticing a difference?
Just a garden.
Yeah, it's just the, yeah, I wasn't, you know, the people that owned the home before me, you know, it was a stay-at-home mom and a dad, and they actually had a 3rd child right before they sold the house to me. So, you know, and they were able to, you know, to do a lot of the, you know, the yard work and that thing and maintain the gardens and that sort of thing. Whereas, you know, I was working sometimes more than 40 hours a week and that sort of thing, so that I really didn't have the time to do a lot of, you know, yard maintenance and that sort of thing. So that's, I admit that I allowed the bushes to grow up quite a bit, so.
Could you tell me about something like your special memory in Sherman Park?
A special memory?
Yes, like maybe the place, maybe the event.
I don't know. We've had, you know, at one time they had, you know, like Sherman Fest, which was up here on Sherman Park at Sherman and Burleigh. Like I attended that. One thing in the Sherman Park Community Association had a neighborhood watch patrol. I was involved in that. That started in August of 1991, in which a group of us would patrol around the neighborhood, just to be a presence to kind of deter crime, or if we, when I was actually patrolling, I never encountered anything that we had to call in, but we had walkie-talkies then, you know, now people have like cell phones and this sort of thing, you know, but, you know, they've had, you know, I've attended like the, you know, the annual meetings of the Sherman Park Community Association. I've been involved in the housing committee. Every year we do an annual survey of all the homes in Sherman Park. So that's from 30th to 60th and from North to Capitol, and which, and at the beginning it was able to, if we noticed that homes needed any kind of work, like a new roof or painting or that sort of thing, that we could then let people know about programs where they could get, you know, funding to do that kind of work. But a lot of that stuff has dried up recently, but we still do the survey and we still let people know that that we've noticed that the homes need work. And a lot of that now is what those letters are sent to the actual owners, the landlords, and then we ask them to come up with a plan to you know, bring the home back up to code kind of thing. So I definitely, you know, have been involved in that as far as Sherman Park is concerned.
For the the housing committee. Do you see this? Is this something that do you see as sort of like distinct to this neighborhood? This sort of like community effort.
Yeah, well, it's, there are other neighborhoods that do the same thing. I think I've heard that Washington Park does it too, but I don't know. But yeah, it's just to, you know, to keep the neighborhood vital and keep it, you know, to kind of put a stop to deterioration and that sort of thing. So it's just that, you know, if people take pride in their homes and pride in their properties and keep them in good shape, you know, that's a good reflection on the neighborhood. So.
Would you say that like how? What would you say is the relationship maybe between like people's sort of, I don't know, private houses and sort of becoming like a collective to like create a community for the neighborhood? Like how do like what people do with their private space like has an impact on the neighborhood?
Well, just visually, if you know, if the homes aren't taken care of, you know, and if homes are boarded up or homes sit, you know, you can tell that they're vacant, or you know, that kind of has a negative connotation to the neighborhood. Whereas when people, you know, maintain their properties and get involved and know each other, then that has a positive effect on the neighborhood.
Do you think that there's like a difference for the impact that it has on people from outside the neighborhood that are maybe sort of like driving through versus people that sort of live in the neighborhood and see either like the nice yards and houses versus the sort of dilapidated houses and yards?
Well, I think that if people are actually driving through because they're looking for a home to buy, then that would have a negative impact on them. That, you know, it makes it less desirable. So, and then I think, well, I guess one of the things that we've noticed, since the neighborhood that I particularly live in is a very quiet neighborhood, it makes it kind of desirable for drug deals because they feel that they're not going to be apprehended or whatever. So that, you know, and it's a you know, it's a real quiet street that they can stop and you know, and do their transaction and not be interrupted and that sort of thing. So that's why we've kind of picked up our patrol, and we watch, you know, like even like when I'm walking my dog. I mean, I remember one day I was walking my dog and a car came and parked on the street. This was, of course, was on Phillip, and then another car came right behind it, and the person got out of the car and got into the first car. And then this was actually at a time when the Milwaukee Police Department was doing bicycle patrols. So, and the two patrolmen on bicycles came by, and then the first car just sped away really fast. You know, so I told the police officers that I think that was a drug deal that was going on. So then they talked to the people who were in the second car. You know, so but I didn't, you know, stick around to see what more that happened to that. But you can see that, you know, when it's a, you know, a really quiet and pleasant neighborhood, it's, you know, it's easier for them to do their drug deals. And we know that there are people that are coming from, you know, the northern suburbs or the western suburbs, and they're coming into our neighborhood just to do the deals because it's, there's less chance of being apprehended. But, you know, we've kind of picked up the patrols and that sort of thing.
So you guys are doing the patrols and sort of trying to help people keep up their properties. Are there other ways that you and other people in the community are sort of trying to maintain, I guess, the neighborhood and as sort of like a nice place to live?
Well, I think just from, by having the block club meetings and having the block party and, the rummage sales and the neighborhood cleanups, and a lot of it is that if people get to know their neighbors and if they know, what activity is normal, then they know what activity is out of the norm and what is suspicious and what sort of things that they should call, the police non-emergency number to report on and that sort of thing. So it kind of just helps to keep the neighborhood in good shape.
What is your favorite place near your house? It can be a street, it can be a sidewalk, it can be a park. Could you describe or explain to us?
Where I spend time outside of my house?
Your favorite place?
My
near
favorite
your,
place?
Yes, near your house.
Well, just, see, I had a dog. My dog just died in April. I used to, just walk quite a lot through the neighborhood. So it's just a very pleasant neighborhood to walk through, and then, I joined other neighbors and we walked together and that sort of thing. And in fact, my neighbor across the street who still has a dog, when she takes the dog for a walk, she calls me and lets me know that she's going for a walk, and I still join her even though I currently don't have a dog right now. But that's, there's no real city park that's really close. I think that Deanan Park is probably the closest, but that's quite a ways away up on Keefe, and it's pretty close to Keefe and Appleton. But and then Sherman Park is way down here on Sherman and Burleigh. But so it's just that. And then there's the 53rd Street School, which is on Keefe and 53rd, and they have the gardens there. A lot of the people had people in the neighborhood. I didn't personally, have a garden plot there, but I know people have had that. And we did do a sculpture at the corner of Roosevelt and 60th in Brooklyn, and I've been and I was heavily involved in they had come up with designs for the sculpture, and they wanted input from the neighborhood, and I was very involved in that. And that sculpture is up there now at the corner of Roosevelt and 60th and Burleigh. So,
Can you describe that sculpture? I haven't seen it.
You haven't seen it's it's narrow at the bottom, and then it becomes heart shape at the top, and then it has the word Sherman Park on it. So it's kind of a welcoming.
Can you show me the locations?
So, what about the location?
The sculptures.
Oh, where the sculpture is? So that's at Roosevelt, where Roosevelt and Burleigh come together. So it's right here in that little area, that little triangle right there.
So when you installed that sculptures, you also took part in some designs or?
Yeah, we had, there was a woman, an artist who, and we met at Sherman Park quite a few times. We actually met at the actual location, and she had, various drawings, renderings of, of what the sculpture could look like, and so that's, you're involved in doing that.
When you're talking about your previous, when you live in the Toledo is famous for the glass art, so that reminds me that you were really like some sort of art.
The memory of this?
Oh,
But
okay.
I keep discussing.
Okay. So we getting very
I
much.
know here happened right 2 years ago.
Oh, the-
Sherman Park, right?
Sherman Park Unrest
Yes,
at Burleigh and
Did it
Sherman.
Bring your and the neighborhood any impact?
Well, people were definitely concerned about it. It's almost like 2 miles away from where I actually live, and the unrest really only took over a span of like 2.5 days. It wasn't a prolonged thing, but they and I would guess that it had it was kind of negative publicity for the neighborhood, but there wasn't like any kind of an exodus out of the neighborhood because of it or anything. So that was.
So events let your neighbors unite. Sorry.
So after that, the Sherman Park riot, it probably gave a negative impression of the neighborhood. But after that, do you efforts to there is any specific efforts to improve the image of neighborhoods by your community
Well, I
members?
think we've just continued to have the block club meetings that we've had and continued to do the patrols that we've done and just continued to be aware of, of what's happening in the neighborhood.
Interview with Tom Littelmann by Lena Lucy Yi and Sun Yup, Part 2, We Run Out of Memory.
Well, I think we've just continued to have the block club meetings that we've had and continued to do the patrols that we've done and just continued to be aware of what's happening in the neighborhood. I think we've already gone an hour.
Is there like anything that we didn't touch on that you would like to talk about?
No, I don't think so.
Oh wait, I have one more question. How did this? When I say
The
this,
people who owned the house prior to me said that somebody knocked on their front door and said they were going through old newspapers and they found us. And this person had actually framed it and everything and just gave it to them. So then when I purchased the home, they, they presented it to me also. So I'm gonna keep it. So I think I'm the third owner of the house. The house was built in 32. I think it was sold in 77 and then again in 87 when I bought it. And that picture was taken in 87 when I bought it. And then you've got a picture on your phone from currently, what it looks like.
Oh, I have one more question. You just said to me that something that symbolizes your neighborhood is red stone.
The Lannon Stone. So Lannon Stone, there's Lannon, Wisconsin is where the quarry is. And so, so some of the homes are, like my particular home is red brick. It's actually a kind of an orange kind of a brick. But like you see the house next to me is of the stone. So that's a Lannon Stone home and quite a few of the homes in the neighborhood. So it's just the name of the quarry and it's the town of Landon, Wisconsin is where a lot of the stone came from. And so that's And quite a few homes in the neighborhood have that facade on them, it's versus brick or stucco or wood paneling or something. They have the land and stone.
One more thing, and I don't know, tell me if you already asked, but like, sort of what would you like to see from this neighborhood in the future?
From the neighborhood in the
Yeah.
future? I would just like to see more owner occupancy and people maintaining their properties and people getting involved and, more attendance at the neighborhood meetings and neighborhood events.
And then, is there anything on sort of the other side of the coin that you would like to stay the same?
Anything that I would like to stay the same? Yeah, like just all of the things that I talked about. Either they stay the same or they get better.
I think that's all.
Okay.
Did,
You said you wanted to scan these or something?
So thank you so much for like coming out here in the middle of the day, interviewing with us. Also, we have like an open house sort of thing on I think this Friday and next Friday and maybe the Friday after that. I'm not 100% sure on that one. From 3 to 4, I believe, right here. Just sort of get, I guess, kind of community perspectives on like what we're doing, that sort of thing. And then on July 21st, the time is sort of TBA. Our final exhibition will be, I believe, also here if you're interested in that.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.